Imagine building your entire life on a foundation of logic, of science, of hard facts, and then one day something happens that completely blows all of that out of the water. Well, that's exactly what we're talking about today. We're diving into the incredible story of Nancy Ryan, a geologist and a firm, committed atheist, whose whole world was about to be shattered and then rebuilt by one unbelievable experience.
So she says, I died, and what I found wasn't hell or nothingness. It was love. Just think about that for a second. This is someone who was absolutely convinced that death was, well, the end. Just lights out. Or, maybe what her religious parents had always warned her about, a one-way ticket to hell for being an atheist. But what she actually found, it was something else entirely. Okay, let's get into this.
To really appreciate just how massive this transformation was, you first have to understand who Nancy was before the accident. We're not talking about someone who was predisposed to spiritual visions or anything like that. It was pretty much the exact opposite.
Her journey actually began in a totally different place. As a little kid, she was deeply spiritual, and she felt like she could see the divine everywhere. But then, as a teenager, she started hearing about scandals within the church, and that's when the questions started. And by the time she was an adult, all that questioning had hardened into a rock-solid belief system grounded in science and materialism. And the contrast here is, well, it's pretty stark. She went from seeing gods in the trees to a worldview where the material world was the only reality. Spirit was replaced by science, and faith was replaced by fact. End of story.
But here's the thing. Underneath that rational, scientific exterior, Nancy was hiding a secret. She was, in her own words, absolutely mortified by one single thing, the fear of death. And this wasn't just a minor worry. It was a fear so intense that it kind of paralyzed her, keeping her life small and safe.
And then, on what should have been a totally ordinary day, right between Christmas and New Year's, that carefully constructed reality of hers was about to be completely demolished.
It all started with something completely mundane. Nancy was just out for a bike ride in Boulder, Colorado, running a few errands.
She entered a traffic circle cautiously, but then an SUV that was supposed to yield suddenly just sped up. Nancy was thrown right onto the hood of the car, and when she looked in, she saw the driver, totally oblivious, looking down at her phone. She couldn't hang on. She slipped, hit the pavement, and then the absolute unthinkable happened. Her backpack got caught underneath the vehicle, and she was dragged for at least 60 feet before another driver finally managed to force the SUV to stop. The damage was just catastrophic. Her body was shattered. Beyond all these injuries, the biggest concern was her spine. Nearly every process in her back was cracked. She was facing this incredibly complex surgery to install titanium rods, and her deepest fear, death, was staring her right in the face. So, as the anesthesia took hold, she expected the usual gray nothingness of surgery. But this time was different. She didn't just drift into unconsciousness. She woke up somewhere else, feeling more awake than she had ever been before. She found herself on this beautiful hillside, just overwhelmed by a wave of peace and unconditional love. Now, the scientist in her mind started racing. This must be a hallucination. But then a voice came to her, one that she didn't hear with her ears but felt, and it said, "Welcome home." And in that moment, she remembered. This was real. The life on Earth, that was the temporary state.
A guide appeared and started to teach her 4 key lessons. The first was about pre-life planning. She was shown how we actually choose our life's major experiences before we're even born. The second was a map of life, which showed her that there are tons of valid paths, not just one right way to live. The third, and maybe the most powerful, was the life review, where she would feel the direct impact of her actions on others. And finally, she was shown the core purpose we all share, to learn to live from a place of love. And this part is absolutely crucial. During her life review, she didn't just watch her life like a movie. No, she relived key moments from the perspective of the other people involved. She felt the joy she caused, and more to the point, she viscerally felt the pain her words or actions had inflicted. For her, that was the single biggest lesson of the entire experience.
But her time there was limited. Even though she protested, her guide told her it was time to go back, that she had already agreed to it. And just like that, she was sent back.
Her return was jarring, to say the least. She woke up in the recovery room screaming, "Where is she? I don't want to be here." The nurses thought she was having a psychotic episode. But once her rational mind kicked back in, she realized she was at a fork in the road.
Her entire understanding of reality had been completely turned upside down.
So she faced this huge choice. She could take the safe path, deny what happened, write it all off as a hallucination, and go back to her predictable but fear-filled life. Or she could take the unknown path, embrace the profound teachings she'd received, integrate them, and step into a reality she couldn't possibly predict.
She chose the unknown path, and the results were immediate and profound, not just spiritually, but physically too.
Get this. Doctors predicted she would be in a full body cast for 16 weeks. She was out of it in just over 4. Her healing was, by any medical standard, nothing short of a miracle.
Her transformation was cemented through new daily practices. She started meditating in nature. She began feeling gratitude, not just as a thought, but as a deep, powerful emotion. And most importantly, she learned to live consciously, to stop reacting out of fear and instead act from a place of inner peace.
The result was a complete 180. The person who was paralyzed by the fear of death now lives fully, without it. The scientist who believed only in the material world now understands there's a much, much bigger picture. The change wasn't just on the surface, it was total.
And this leaves us with the final, really provocative idea that Nancy's guide shared with her. The guide called our time here on Earth a near-life experience, almost like a focused training ground. It suggests that maybe our purpose here isn't about success or survival, but about a single core lesson: learning how to navigate this reality from a place of love.